Greetings, I am Zawad Desaling here with you to shed light on TPLF's action using human waves. TPLF, the most centralized and regimentalized rebel group since its early periods. Their mind setup was based on taking harsh measure against the one who is at their odds. In this regard, using this brutal action lets them to mobilize thousands of people for the war fearing this action. The most noticeable act is using child soldier and human wave. According to sources, picture of selfless children fighting for Tigray People's Liberation Front while completely ignoring the fact that the recruitment and use of children in conflict is a war crime and contravenes the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. The Tigray People's Liberation Front chairman foreshadowed the use of children by the TPLF in this conflict when he stated in a speech, "Starting with children, everyone will fight." The TPLF is strategically using children to create a human wave in an attempt to overwhelm the Ethiopian National Defense Force. The use of children to support any element of armed conflict constitutes a war crime that the international community is observing this evidence and remaining silent questions the whole value of the conventions and protocols the world has adopted to address such crimes. Like the evidence of the TPLF's use of child soldiers in Tigray, there is now ample evidence that the TPLF used these child soldiers to invade Afar and Amhara regions and that hundreds of children were killed. Those rescued by the Ethiopian National Defense Force verified recruitment by the TPLF. Child soldiers often bring with them a vitality and energy that makes them easy to train. Perhaps more importantly, they have a false sense of bravery and invincibility. And when plied with drugs, as children rescued from the TPLF are reporting, some have no fear. Recruitment has been made easier for the TPLF since they support the infrastructure that includes the distribution of food aid. The TPLF has a registration process which denies food aid to families who don't supply a child fighter. Families without children are often left begging for food. Homeless children living on the streets are easy prey. And of course, children with families may simply go missing. The terrorist TPLF is known by using child soldiers and civilian wave while forcing them. This strategy was designed as majority of the population were under safety net and expect aid from this rebel. Canada-based security expert Anne Fitzgerald believes the TPLF fighters have suffered much higher losses, saying it was the TPLF that was using human waves. The recruitment and use of the children in conflict is a war crime and contravenes the UN Convention on the Rights of Child. Why is the international community silent? For years, it's been common knowledge that children under 18 years of age are routinely recruited into the Tigray People's Liberation Front, the TPLF, in Ethiopia. So why does the international community refuse to condemn the use of child soldiers by the TPLF? They had no problem condemning and apparently hunting down leaders of the Lord's Resistance Army in Uganda, which recruited and trained child soldiers. And as Fitzgerald states, it was very vocal when Jermichael, Boko Haram, routinely kidnapped Nigerian children and when armed groups in 2018 in South Sudan continued to recruit child soldiers and force them into conflict. On November 17, 2020, UNICEF issued the following statement, quote unquote, "UNICEF is deeply concerned about the safety and well-being of children affected by ongoing military operations in the Tigray region of Ethiopia. The silence of the international community exposes a sense of selective humanity within the realm of international law." The question is, though, why are Ethiopian children different and not as deserving? It should not be lost on Canadians that War Child Canada to date has not issued a statement on the situation in Ethiopia. Even Romeo Dallaire, appointed special advisor to the Canadian International Development Agency on matters relating to war-affected children around the world, has remained silent, as has Amnesty International. UNICEF offered a media statement at the beginning of the conflict, but there has been no follow-up, and donor countries have not issued independent statements of their own. The West pressure the TPLF into ending the illegal use of child soldiers and to be held accountable for their actions, just like the international community did in Sierra Leone, the Democratic Republic of Congo, formerly known as the Zaire, and Uganda. This double standard undoubtedly has national interests, for the U.S. imposing such mandates has not bode well for the U.S. As witnessed most recently in Afghanistan, the Biden administration would not negotiate with ISIS after 9/11. Canada would also be wise to remember that during the Quebec crisis, here Elliott Trudeau refused to negotiate with the Front de Libération du Québec. Why such silence while ample evidence is at hand? The Geneva Convention and other international covenants stipulates whereby every nation to the parties should pay due attention for children of today and generations of tomorrow. Belligerent act TPLF is doing implies that many groups are behind it and have planned to weaken Ethiopia, which is not possible. TPLF, supported by its masters and allies, and wage war against Ethiopia, will never and ever win it so long as Ethiopians are alive. Its bandits' mentality may let this group to surface today as a result of direct and indirect support from its masters. But why human wave? Why child soldier? On top of it, why such silence? Ignoring brutal and hard fact as the ongoing and persistent violation of the right of child will eventually lead to moral accountability when Ethiopians get rid of TPLF. And that, ladies and gentlemen, wraps up this segment of ETV World. Make sure to follow and subscribe to our social media channels for more captivating content that circles on national, continental, and international issues.